video game if they truly have the passion and desire for it. Game developing is an extremely varied topic with no simple answer or beginning step to focus on. Now, most people, when they think of creating video games, they think the development process is, oh, as a developer, I can just think of the idea and put it into the game, and it's as simple as that. Well, that's false depending on what the developer's skill is at that very moment, as well as the decision he makes and the software or program he uses. Now, I've been a game developer for a couple of years now, and I barely scratched the surface of learning it, but with the few years of experience that I have, I can at least say that I can brief beginners on what to learn and where to look at. So, I'm going to talk about three things. The general starting point for a game developer should look at in his mentality. A little bit about myself, and what recommended software is that one should use. Let me get started with the very basics. So, start small when creating a game, and expect failure everywhere. Now, let me elaborate why I say that. So, when I say starting small, I mean the fact that when someone first creates a game, they think, oh, I can create this big project, this AAA game, and it'll be great and amazing. But the likelihood of one person creating the game, actually putting all these mechanics into it, executing it without it crashing, and being published is absurd. There is no possible chance that that's going to happen. So the errors that I mentioned earlier are, any programmer can relate to this as, if there's going to be errors regardless of what you do, you'll always find something wrong. And as soon as you fix that one error, there's bound to have more errors to show up. Now, I had an interview with Michael Weber, which is a software and game developer and instructor at the Advanced Technology Center. And he said the trouble that most students have as a game developer would be that students can't follow the flow of logic and utilize the very fundamentals of programming itself. He recommends for a game developer to start with a simple game engine, so it will teach you how the flow of the game itself works and the steps of how a game is created. The second main point I'll be talking about is myself. So, I started programming my junior year of high school, and I haven't stopped since. Because video games to me, when I was very young, it was my life. That was the joy I had, because it was something that could connect to me, and it taught, ironically enough, it has life morals that I follow to this very day still. And as a person who follows these games, I feel as though the joy that it brought me, I should give back to the community, and therefore I should be a game developer myself. So when I first started developing a game developing, it was nothing what I expected. At first I thought it was going to be like a super easy, crazy, I can grab any crazy cool idea in my head and put it in there, into a game, and it was going to be fantastic. I was blindsided. As soon as I got into the field, all I got was a blank white screen with a cursor blinking at me, waiting for me to do something. And I was like, whoa, hold on, what is happening? But regardless, this was my passion, so I persevered and worked hard to learn all the steps that I needed to do. And over time, I learned how to work with game flow, and I started learning how to work with basic game engines, and from that, I learned the very basics of programming itself. Now here I am a couple of years later. I have a couple of years experience as a game developer, as well as the co-founder of the video game company, Illusion LLC. The next topic I'll talk about is the starting point for a game developer. Now, if you were to go online and look at research, where should I begin, you will get all this controversy and confusion of a starting point. Since there is technically no good starting point, I've gathered up enough information to point anyone who's interested in the general direction. So, when having the interview with the instructor, he recommended to work with game engines first, such as Game Maker, RPG Maker, First Person Shooter Maker, and Alice. And then after learning the very basics of game engines, to work with programming basics themselves, such as short math, Boolean expressions, basic algorithms, and so forth. And only after you've learned all the basics, to actually begin learning a specific language first. So I looked up the most common language used for video game developing, and it pointed to C++, which I found in one of the books, Game Development Essentials and Introduction. However, while researching a bunch of other sources, although it may be the most used language, it is not recommended to learn first as a game developer. Other languages such as C# and Java should be learned first, only then after you've learned the basics of those languages to move on to C++. So, in conclusion, we talked about the general starting point of what the mentality of a beginning video game developer should be. I'll talk to you a little bit of brief history about how I became a game developer and where I stand today, and what recommended software to use. So, just think, even though it may seem tough and rigorous, as long as you have the self-discipline to learn all that is needed to learn, and you will get through all these struggling and trump things that will hold you down, you will then be able to create something amazing in the end. Thank you.